Welcome to Paris, A State of Mind. Join us as we talk about the good, the bad, the ins, the outs of property rentals and purchases in and around Paris. We'll have topics for renters, owners, and visitors, share questions we are regularly asked, and more. My name is Gail Boisclair of Perfectly Paris, and my co-host is Marie Pistinier of Lokim Paris. Be a part of it. Both of us are proud members of the SPLM, the first representative body of furnished rental professionals. Hi, Marie. How are you?
Hi, Gail. How are you doing? I'm doing very fine.
Oh, I am really doing well, except you'll never believe it. I thought everything was quiet at my place, and I'm hearing drilling, and it's not even probably coming from my building. What do these people do? Oh, my goodness. And on top of that, I'm actually dealing with a major leak issue for one of my owners. So anyway, I thought because of all of these things, maybe we should do an episode or 2 or 15 on insurance.
Yes, sure. I bet we could do at least 2 or 3 episodes instead of one, because we would need to cover the tenant home insurance, as it may vary from furnished and unfurnished lease. We have eventually the tenant cancellation insurance when it's more like when we talk about vacation rentals. And on the owner side, we have also different type of insurance depending on the situation. Like, are you living in the premises or are you renting it? Is it you rent it on a full term basis, or is it like sometimes for vacation rental? So it's like a lot of topics to cover just with the insurance subject.
Oh my goodness. I think that is a whole season of topics with insurance. Wow. I guess we really do love the paperwork in France then. So I guess to start off, let's start with the tenants. I often have, I think even just maybe this week or last week, I had somebody who asked me, someone who rented an apartment, saying, why should I have insurance when the owner should have their own insurance? It's somebody who's not French. And like, what do I say to her or him?
So I hear that often too. It's actually really different. It's not the same insurance and not the same liability. So you really definitely as a tenant needs to have a home insurance when you check in. It's like whether you are here for a few months or like for a few years, it's something that you should have when you get inside the apartment. Normally you cannot get the keys if you don't have a home insurance, and the owners or the agent can refuse you the access. You can make the state of the apartment, and then you don't get the keys if you cannot prove that you are covered from the moment you are going to be inside the apartment.
Yeah, but fortunately, it's easy to get all kinds of online insurance. But now the question is, even if it's easy to get it all, what is like the coverage supposed to be? How do I decide?
So it should be usually when you ask for a home insurance in France, you will have at least a minimum thing, which will be usually you will be covered for fire, water issues, or explosions. But and usually you do have your liability, who is actually inside the minimum, the minimum requirements you do have. But of course, then you can ask with your insurance, because you may need some additional coverage. Do you want to have the theft for on the insurance, or do you have like the belongings you have inside covers? It's like up to 10,000 euros, or will it be 20,000? Or you have like a bunch of jewelry that you want to cover, so you may need to have a coverage which is higher than that.
Yeah, I got to get all my Picassos covered because I really don't want someone stealing them. Really. And especially my Dali collection. Oh, that would really make me mad. Anyway.
I understand. Well, life is hard.
So you mentioned that there's a difference between furnished and unfurnished leases, like when a problem occurs and the type of insurance and so on. Can you go on into more detail about that?
Yeah, sure. At least we can just remind the people who listen to us, like the minimum is happening when you do have a leak coming up. Then the first thing to do is first, before looking after if your lease is furnished or unfurnished and everything, which would be to try to find out, to locate your leak, even though you are the one who are leaked on. You do have to take care of that. So, but it's really different, and the work you are going to have, it really depends on the type of lease.
So, I mean, yeah. So if I'm sitting right here recording my podcast and all of a sudden water starts falling on my head, I guess I have to, what do I do? I'm like, well, apart from get an umbrella, number one, get an umbrella while you're recording a podcast to make sure that the water does not fall on the electrical equipment. That's number one. But really, what's number two?
So once you are after the umbrella, then you go and knock on your neighbor's door in order to make sure that in order to try to find the cause. But the thing is that if you are your lease is unfurnished, then you will be the one as a tenant who will have to take care of a lot of paperwork. Even though you are not causing the problem, then you'll have to deal with your insurance. You have to tell your insurance. You will have the experts who are going to come to see the apartment and eventually the apartment or the property and see if there is any damages. But you will be also the one who will fill the document, which is called constat à l'amiable, which is like a friendly state of the situation that you will fill with the person and or the company responsible for the leak. And then you will send it to your home insurance company, and you will have, of course, to do the follow up to make sure that your file is proceed, and that you will get, especially when you do have damage, that you will, of course, at a certain point get the money for eventually for the renovation, or they will send you a company who is going to take care of the renovation. Or you may eventually be reimbursed for the belongings that was damaged. For example, it fall on your electric equipment. If it was your computer or your TV, then you will be covered. But you will be the one who is dealing with your home insurance, and then of course insurances are going to talk together. But you are going to be the one to do a lot of follow up.
Okay, so that's an example, like, because I'm living my rental situation, I'm in an unfurnished apartment, so I'm on a 3-year rental lease. And so that's how it would be handled in my particular case after I've gotten rid of my umbrella. I run around to try to find where the water is coming from. So what about when it's not the case of a 3-year unfurnished apartment or house? What about a furnished apartment?
So recently, the rules for furnished apartment did change, which is good in particular for the people who are there for only a few months. Like you are here for a few months, you get a big leak coming up, then you start, you don't speak French, you start to fill the paperwork, but then after you leave, so you don't care of what's happening after in the apartment. But the owner has to pass from the tenant home insurance to the owner home insurance, so it's like a real mess. So they changed the thing, and lately now, when it's a furnished place, then it will be the owner's insurance who will be in charge of talking to the insurance of the person who is responsible for the leak. So that means that you will not be the one who fill the paperwork, even though you will be the one who will, of course, you will need to help the owners or the agent eventually, if their flat is managed by an agent, to help them to fill the document correctly, because they won't be on site. So you will be the one who will be able to say, okay, there is some stain, there is some painting who is cloaking. So there is a lot of things that you will need to share to be nice to others. But it's not you who is going to do all the paperwork and even the signature of the constat amiable, which is the state of the situation and of the damages that we may see now, that will be signed actually by the owners or the agent with the person who is responsible for that. And the only thing that will make that you need to be committed to that will be if there is some damages on your own belongings. For example, you rent a furnished apartment and then the water fall on your computer. So it will damage, for example, the ceiling and things like that, but also your own belongings. Then you will need to go to your home insurance in order to get to have a follow-up with your belongings. Even though after insurances may talk to each other and it will be the insurance of the upstairs neighbor who will pay for everything, the owner will not be in charge of your the damages on your belongings.
Right. And by the way, you said when the painting clocks, just for those Anglophones out there, that means like when there's like crackling in the painting or like bubbling and things like that. That's the kind of closest English translation to when painting.
Yes, sorry about that.
Hey, we speak franglais. But yeah, so what you just said, it's actually, it could be a case where there's three insurance companies involved: the owner's insurance, the neighbor's insurance, and then your own personal insurance if it's a furnished rental and your belongings are damaged. And what if me, though, on the other hand, imagine, I don't know, I'm taking a bath, I had too much champagne, and the water overflows all over the bathroom floor and floods into the neighbors. Or if there's something that I don't even know, that all of a sudden I don't know, just running water, and there's like a joint, a washer that maybe breaks, and I don't know anything about it, and I don't even see any water in my place. What do I do then?
So the thing that sometimes we don't realize we are responsible for a leak because it goes from months and months and months of water running down and everything. So the first thing would be, of course, when you realize you are responsible for something, meaning like you have your neighbor coming up to say, okay, there is some rain downstairs. Then first you have to act quickly. And this is a little of the insurance thing. It's like a practical thing, but sometimes people are asking me, okay, what do I do? Okay, you just stop the water, for example, not only your faucet, but also, for example, the general stop. There is in all apartments, you do have always a place where you can stop completely the water for coming up to your apartment. So this would be the best thing to do in order to avoid larger damages. Then the question would be, of course, to reach a plumber.
Mm-hmm. I actually, in all of the flats that I manage, furnished rentals, short, medium, long, it doesn't matter. I always write down where the water shutoff valve is, because you never know. You never know. And sometimes it's not actually in the apartment. Sometimes it's in the hallway right by the apartment.
Yes.
But then if you turn off the wrong tap, you could make a neighbor very angry, especially if they're in the middle of having a shower. Not practical. But anyway, I got off topic. So reach a plumber, you said. Contact a plumber. Yeah. Well, I always get those flyers. You know those flyers people put in the letterbox, or you find them, a pile of them outside? Could I cut one of those?
Yeah, definitely not. I would say avoid those, because you never know what you're, it's like the chocolate box. You never know what you're going to get. And you may get a really, really bad one. Sometimes it's scam. Most of the time, I would say that probably the guy are really like honest and sincere, but we have so many stories of people who are getting scammed because they are just with a water problem, like in the middle of the night, or of course on weekends. This is like the classical thing. Like when you have a leak, it's always on weekends. Like the leak is not doesn't like the Monday morning. No, it's like on weekend every time. So no, I would say that don't accept any plumber. You have to you may ask your insurance when you have a problem. You call your insurance. You should have like a emergency kind of numbers where you can get people are going to give you the thing that you have to do. And that's why it's important to precise that you have a furnished lease or an unfurnished, because it may be different. Sometimes by default, people think you are unfurnished, so they will ask you to do the thing. So you really have to do that. Then you can ask them if they do have some company they could recommend in order to fix the issue right away. Then I would suggest you to contact the owners, because he may have some companies that you could recommend, or you can also kindly ask your rental agent that may have some people to recommend, or even though your neighbors, like contact people who are going to give you the things. You need to have some reviews. You can it's like for the locksmith. Most of them are really good, and it's not a scam, but when you fall on one, then it's like your issue is much more bigger, because the insurance may not cover all the costs.
We'll be right back with Paris, A State of Mind, after a word from our sponsors. And now back to Paris, A State of Mind.
Well, it's funny, two things you said. Number one, that leaks happen on the weekend. And number two, contact your neighbors. It is true. Not that long ago, I had this knock on my door. It was, I think, Sunday morning. No. It was Saturday. But it was before noon. And my neighbor, Catherine, knocked on my door. She didn't know what to do. She lives by herself. And she's like, oh my goodness, I've got a leak and I don't know any plumbers. What do I do? And I said, okay, let me take a look. Not that I'm a plumber. I don't work part-time as a plumber, but I did go in and I established where the leak was coming from. And it was, as we say, just a little twin. And I said, okay, look, Catherine, we need to shut off your main water and things like that to stop this leak. And I said, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to call the Gardien, because in my building, it's actually a couple, and the husband is really, really, really super about anything water related. And the syndic even gave him plumbing courses and things like that. And I said, they're still on duty until noon. I'm sure he can fix it. Oh, no, but I don't even have the number. And I said, I do. So I called and he came. And yes, it was just a washer. It was fixed. But I also did, in case it was more serious, I gave her like 3 names of plumbers. Anyway.
But you're right. I forgot to mention that when you do have a superintendent in the building, yes, contact him, because usually they know exactly where they can find the major the water shut system, and they can eventually be handy. So it's a really a good thing to know.
And they're always usually very, very responsible, unless it's on a Sunday and they're not there.
Yeah.
Oops. But this was a Saturday before noon. All right. What about the paperwork? The paperwork.
So then everything will be there is several things. It will be depending on who is responsible for that. We don't know if you are going to be the one who is in charge of getting a plumber. It depends if you are responsible for the leak or not. And then depending on if it's furnished or unfurnished, you will be the one who fill the constat amiable and tell the insurance. One important point, if you are, for example, you are in an unfurnished place, or you are yourself causing the leak, is that the insurance, when you fill the constat amiable, you have to, and this is not, and I'm asking you to fix it before, you have to precise that the problem is fixed. If you send the constat amiable, which can be good at the beginning when the thing is not fixed because there is some pieces to change and some major thing to do and everything, so you send the constat amiable, which means that you will open a file in the insurance company in order to create something that will be follow up later. But the insurance will not release any payments for the renovations. So especially if your downstairs neighbor is expecting some painting and everything, they will not do so if it's not fixed. So it really so when there is an issue, it's really important to be quick to find the leaks. So sometimes we cannot ourselves, so we have to have the plumber to do so, and then to fix and to find a way to fix it. So it's good to involve everyone in that could be involved, because I didn't plan on talking about that. But one of the things would be if the cause is not inside an apartment, but from inside the building, then you will have to contact and to be in contact and to fill the paperwork with the syndic and not with your neighbor, for example.
Yeah. And is there, do you have to do this right away? Is there a time limit of when you need to report this to the insurance company?
Usually they say that you have within 48 hours to give them their information. But for example, in the past, I had some people who just realized that they came after 1 month's vacation. So they arrive and there is a major leak, and then it will be like after a month after the beginning of the thing. So, but as soon as you know, even though the problem is not fixed, it's good to you have to tell. If you are not responsible, you have to tell the owner, you have to tell. Sometimes you are not responsible, there is no major water coming up, but you see on the wall or on the ceilings like some major damages coming up, like you don't know what. So maybe it was like an ancient leak, but then the water was inside, so you had some humidity and everything. So it's important to contact the owner or the agent to say, okay, there is this problem. So maybe we have to look for a leak, or maybe it will be something that the owner then can ask for renovation. He will work with his insurance in order to have it fixed.
Okay, so getting back to the leak, who pays to fix it? Is it the tenant that has to pay to fix the leak?
It depends on, first, most of the payments will be covered by the insurance in the end. Sometimes you have to make the upfront payment, but most of the time the insurance in the end will cover it, unless you have a franchise. And I think the word is the same in English than in French. So who pays? It will depend on who is causing the leak. If you are the one who bear the thing, it's supposed to be the person responsible for that. But sometimes you do have to make the advance payment, like tricky things. A tenant will ask us as an agent to send a plumber in order to find the leak, because he cannot read the upstairs neighbors, and the syndic doesn't know where it comes from, so they will not send the building plumber. Then of course we will send someone, but who is going to pay for the work that has been done? So usually we are going to make the advance payment, hoping for the insurance then to come up and to reimburse the person who pays. And when you're a tenant, unfurnished place, and you don't have any agent coming up, in between, then you do have to pay, and then you will ask your insurance to be reimbursed for that, unless there is a franchise, because sometimes the search for the leak, if it's not that complicated, it will not be that high. So sometimes if you have a 500 euro franchise, it will not be covered. But then after, the question would be, it depends on what was supposed to be done. For example, we already mentioned, I think, that the joints, like in the kitchen sink, the wash basin, this kind of, even the shower or the bathtub. So this is something that with an unfurnished and furnished as well. But when you are here for a long stay, it's supposed to be the tenant responsibility, meaning that the tenant has to, if you see your joint is starting to be with mold, or that it's starting to go away, then you do have to redo that. So you pay someone or you do it yourself, but you have to do that. If you fail in doing that and you cause a leak, of course, you will be the one who pays. Hopefully your insurance will cover for your liability, because this is what I mentioned in the beginning. Your home insurance do cover also your liability in your home. So you are liable and you are responsible for redoing the joint. So then if you fail on that, the insurance will take care of that. But for example, if there is like a major issue in the pipes that the owner, or for example, a bathtub, I had a case recently with a bathtub, which is not anymore, I don't know how you say that, like étanche. Like the water it's not fully waterproof.
Yeah.
It should be water. It should keep the thing in the bathtub,
right.
Like it's poreux. I don't know how you would say that.
Porous.
So maybe it's so the bathtub is like so old, like there is some rust. We found out there is some rust on it, like on the feet and on the thing below. And so this is the owner responsibility. It's not the tenant who is supposed to change the bathtub. It's the owner, or like a major problem in the pipes. So this would be the owner problem. Same for example, for the water tank. Sometimes it's leaking. The water tank, once it's there is like a crack on it, that means that the water is coming out. This is not unless the tenant took a hammer and and put some and knocks on it, then it will be the owner responsibility. So who pays depends on who is responsible, and usually it will be the insurances in the end, but it depends on the coverage you have.
Yeah. So if it's the joint, like the silicone joint around the bathtub, it's the renter that should keep that up. But yeah, there's certain things that we just don't know, because sometimes when pipes are hidden, we have no idea. It's a big surprise.
Sometimes, same for when it's furnished, it's the same thing, that you are responsible for the joint. But for example, you stay 6 months in an apartment, it's complicated to say that you are responsible for the joint maintenance, because maybe it was this way when you came in. So this is a lot of things that are going to be dealt one by one depending on the situation.
Yeah, and I guess that's the thing. I mean, even though the leak has started in my apartment, I guess, I'm the one that has to do all the investigation for it, right? To try to figure out where it's coming from.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And running around upstairs in my pajamas after I'm running out of my bathtub, which I did really know that maybe it was me that overflowed my bathtub because I was having too much champagne because I had a hard week at work. Anyway, did I get off topic again?
No, we are not that far, because we the question was like we mentioned that when we talked previously, that someone asked you why should he be the one?
Why should they? Yeah.
Why should they be the one investigating for the for the leak? And I heard that already, but it may sound weird for the person who is leaked on, because we can say, okay, I'm not responsible for that, but it's complicated because we cannot say, for example, the owner, if I say to the owner, you have to pay the plumber in order to make the search, Maybe it's the owner of your owner doesn't have to, so it has to be someone else. It has to be the person who is in charge and who is responsible. So even though you are not responsible, your owners will not pay for something that he is not responsible of as well. So you are both not responsible for being leaked on, but you do have to do your best. And yes, go upstairs, try to look around. Sometimes you just see, and you can see where the water is coming up, and check also the common areas, because sometimes we are just blaming the neighbors, but in fact it's like a pipe somewhere in the building that has nothing to do. When it's this, then you will be directly in touch with the syndic. The syndic will be the one who will sign the paperwork. And usually when it's the case, they will send the plumber who is affiliated to the building, because at least they have usually several, but they have some people they are used to work with. So then when we can see, and we can see that it's part of the building responsibility, then you will have a professional company who is supposed to take care of. But this doesn't mean that you don't have to call them regularly, make sure that they send the plumber, and you have to be there. Even though you are not responsible, you have to be there when they will send the experts from the insurances or the plumber, in order for them to make sure that, to see where the water is coming up. Sometimes it's coming up from like 2 or 3 floors above. We don't know. It's not necessarily the upstairs neighbors. And so it's really interesting. But it's really interesting, but important too. One little trick that you can have, for example, when you have meters in the apartment, sometimes you have you have the pipe coming up, and then at a certain point you have the meters and the pipe coming out. But both all are in your apartment. Everything that is before the meters will be the building responsibility. Everything after will be the owner and the tenant responsibility. So if you are at home and the leak is coming up from the pipes that is right before the meters, like coming from the building, arriving in the staircase and arriving at yours, then it will be the syndic responsibility, and you have to have them involved.
We'll be right back with Paris, A State of Mind, after a word from our sponsors. And now back to Paris, A State of Mind.
Yeah, I had that actually recently, but my guardian fixed it, because it was a leak actually from a joint coming just before where the water meter was attached, and then the pipe coming into my apartment. So it was not me, it was the syndic. So it's true, sometimes it's really not easy to figure it all out, and so on and so forth. So I think that there's a lot more to talk about in insurance than what we originally thought. I think we have more episodes on insurance in our future.
Yes, I'm sure. Like at least everything that is related to the owners, and also I think that we should mention some stuff about everything that is related to the vacation rentals. Whether you are travelers coming to Paris or anywhere in France or even in Europe, it would work as well. And for the owners in France, when you own a place in France and you want to rent it partially or completely for dedicated that for vacation rentals, you do have to have some specific things. But we'll see that later. So, what about today, Gail?
Well,
was it a lot to learn today?
It was indeed. I learned that I should not drink champagne in my bathtub and let it overflow into the neighbor's home. I learned I should not do that. I'm responsible. And I should also not take a hammer to my water heater, because I'm responsible for that too. But I did really learn that it can be very complicated to figure out where the water leak is coming from, who's responsible for what. But the most important thing that I learned is to know where your main water shutoff valve is, where you live. So when there is a problem, you can turn off your water straight away while you try to figure it out. And I also learned, do not call those plumbers on those things that are left in the letterbox. Voila.
Yes.
There you go. Well, thank you.
Perfect. So see you next time to talk about more fun things about insurances.
Okay, indeed. Well, thank you for all your information. It's been great, Marie.
It's my pleasure. Thank you again, Gail, for sharing this episode with me. That's perfect.
Well, have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Paris, A State of Mind, featuring Gail of Perfectly Paris and Marie of Lokim, both who are founding members of the SPLM. Paris, A State of Mind is produced by Paris Underground Radio. The music, Jazz in Paris, is by Media Right Productions. For more information on this show and others, go to parisundergroundradio.com.